Hello, and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Pool community. My name is Wack. Today is March 6th, and today's episode is going to cover the EigenLayer vote starting in the PDAO vote. We're going to also cover a discussion on Ethereum Magicians about something called minimum viable issuance. And finally, we're going to end with rETH hitting a new milestone. So let's get into it.
10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6.
So we're going to start today's episode here with Langas, and Langas here is talking about the new vote for the challenge for the EigenLayer grant that the GMC put through. He says, hey everyone, 2 new protocol DAO governance votes are live, and then there's a link to the votes. This pair of votes aims to determine how the EigenLayer integration grant will proceed. Should it continue? Should it be rejected or reduced in scope? Please read the associated RPIP and the discussion, and there's a forum link as well. So let's go and have a look at the votes and see what there is. So there are 2 active votes happening. The first one says appeal the GMC's decision on the grant number RPIP 38 and reduce the scope of the EigenLayer bounty. Sorry, that's the second one. The first one says appeal the GMC's decision on RPIP 38 and reject the EigenLayer integration bounty. So there's 2 votes going on. What you're actually voting on is not the EigenLayer bounty itself, but on the appeal of the bounty. So the language of the votes might sound a little bit strange because of that, but let's have a look at the first one. The first one says appeal the decision and reject the integration bounty outright. So let's make it a little bit easier to read. It says, so this vote is the first in the pair of connected votes is to determine whether or not to reject the funding outright. So then it says the grant number allocates $10,000 from the GMC for a bounty to research and report on a possible EigenLayer integration for Rocket Pool nodes, and allocates an additional $50,000 towards its development pending review of the research. The rationale is here. It says funding an integration with EigenLayer has the potential to attract many node operators, but also the potential to create additional risks to rETH holders. The decision whether to pursue this integration is important and contentious enough to warrant involvement of the whole PDAO. The outcomes here, it says the vote passes, and then the grant should not be funded. This vote fails, the paired vote passes, and then the grant should be rewritten to include only milestone 0, and funding should be limited to $10,000. It says this vote fails and the paired vote fails, then the funding should be passed as agreed upon by the GMC. So remember, you've been voting here for the appeal, not the grant. So do you want the appeal to pass, which means that you don't want the grant to be paid, or do you want the appeal to fail, in which case you do want the grant to be paid? So the first vote here currently has 3,500 votes against. So that means these people do want the vote to pass. Sorry, they do want the grant to go through. For 1,200 votes and 40 votes abstained. Let's have a look at who's voting how. So over here you can see there's Val. He's voted for this, so he doesn't want the money to be paid. He says, I think EigenLayer is a large threat to Ethereum. See my post in the forum discussion thread. I voted, I said it doesn't make sense to stop at this point. Paying for the research at the very minimum should happen, and then we can go forward with that depending on what the PDAO wants after the research is done. Ramana here again as well says EigenLayer is important to look into, and the funded research can give us info on whether to proceed further. Jasper says EigenLayer is too important opportunity to shut down. This bounty requires PDAO approval before any implementation happens. And that's the original vote of the GMC as well, was let the research happen, and then we will take it to a PDAO vote on whether to proceed or not. And then here as well, Duki says spending $10,000 on this research does not harm anyone and can be beneficial to us. So this vote was the vote about stopping the research outright. Now let's have a look. Let's have a look at the second vote. And says this vote, the second in the pair, is determined whether or not to reduce the scope of the EigenLayer bounty. So it says this one allocates $10,000 research, basically it just says, let's just do the research, and then they'll have to do a new grant if they want to integrate anything. And the rationale is funding and integration with EigenLayer has the potential to attract many node operators, but also the potential to create additional risks to our ETH holders. And it says the PDAO should decide whether or not to assign values to further milestones before research is completed. So then there's kind of explaining the outcome. And again, this set of votes, the vote amount so far are 3,800 votes in against this. So they do want to fund it. Against the appeal, 1,900 votes are in the for the appeal, and the quorum is 5,800 votes out of 7,500 votes. So as you can see over here, again, Val was one of the people who voted for this. He says, I think EigenLayer is a large threat to Ethereum. See my post. I said I vote against this, just to say I vote against this. Ramana says he agrees with chaos. And Jasper says the research already required an PDAO approval. It makes no sense to cut the proposal after phase 0 when no research has been done. So basically what Jasper is saying is that the vote is already that's already part of the original GMC grant. So it makes no sense to alter that at this time. So there was some confusion, as you could already tell by the way I was describing it, about what voting for and against means. Here, Chaos was kind of trying to explain his vote and saying kind of explaining how it's voting, because he voted against one vote and for the other vote, because and that was how he wanted it to vote it. And like I said over here, even Ishka was saying you may have voted in reverse based on your comments, and it says you voted backwards, but there was some explanation about how the two votes were kind of that was Chaos's opinion, basically the way that happened. So then Ishka was the one who kind of explained it to everyone about how you should vote depending on what you want to happen. So he says, if you vote for both votes, then you want no research into EigenLayer. You vote for on the first one and against on the second one, then you want no research into EigenLayer. If you vote against and against, then you want research into the EigenLayer with further funding possible based on PDAO approval. And if you vote against and then for, then you want research into EigenLayer, but explicitly no further action without additional grant decision. So that is the summary of the vote there. So you can keep that in mind when you want to go and vote. Okay. And next here, we've got a tweet thread about this. So, well, not a tweet thread, just a post. Jasper said the thread will be coming soon. He says, I'll be voting no. So he means voting against on the RPIP 38 votes. He says this vote would stop the EigenLayer integration bounty at a cost of $60,000 at a crucial juncture for Rocket Pool. We cannot afford to slow down the research towards restaking. And then he links to the votes, and he says, this vote could have been written much better, to be honest. It would be nice to vote yes to funding and vote no to not funding. And Jasper says, yes, it's very confusing as written. But like I said, it's all about you're voting on the appeal, you're not voting on the actual award itself. So I want to take a couple of minutes and kind of talk about how heartening this whole process has been. So the votes kind of went live yesterday, and there were two main people talking about it in the Discord. The first was Jasper, and the second was Val, and they actually spent a long time talking back and forth about the vote. Val, of course, as we know, is voting against giving EigenLayer money, which means voting for the appeal, and Jasper, of course, is voting for giving EigenLayer money, which means he's voting against the appeal. Just if it's not confusing enough for you. But anyway, the reason why it was so heartening was because there was quite an active discussion that was happening all day long in trading, and there were a couple of people kind of on both sides, people asking questions, but the main people were Jasper and Val, of course, who were kind of fielding questions and sharing information about what they thought. And I just wanted to give a shout out to both of them and everyone else as well about how everything was really well conducted. and the discussions were fantastic. So huge shout out to everyone involved in the discussion yesterday. I really think that this discussion won't be as contentious as some of the other ones, but yeah, that is definitely up to how the community approaches the next few days. But I don't think it will be, even though the vote is quite divided right now, like 66 against and 35 for, pretty much. It doesn't feel like the amount that we have at stake will divide the community like previous votes have. So that's really great to see. Okay, moving on now, we've got some big news out of the Ethereum ecosystem actually. So I covered this on Rocket Fuel a couple of weeks ago, where there was this idea of putting a new issuance curve adjustment proposal into the Electra upgrade. Now you all know that Electra is the upgrade that will come after Denkun, which is next week, and the best case scenario for it to launch will be November, but I think it's more likely it'll be Q1 of 2025. Anyway, here in this post, we covered this on the show. Casper, who wrote the thread, basically says that we argue why under the current issuance policy, in the long run, most ETH will plausibly be staked via LSTs, and then they say high staking ratios have negative externalities. As I said, we briefly introduced the endgame vision for staking economics, a stake targeting policy. However, we also highlight remaining open questions which make it not viable for Electra. And then the last TLDR point is, we thus suggest adjusting the issuance curve in Electra as per Anders' proposal. It's trivial to implement but significantly reduces the incentive for new stake inflow and helps to mitigate many of the issues outlined above. So they're basically saying that the curve that should be used for staking should change. So here they're kind of explaining what the current issuance curve looks like and what the new issuance curve will look like, and how basically there is going to be some changes potentially to what those rewards will look like. So if there's 60 million stake, that'll be around 1% returns. That's including MEV yield. And if there's much more than that, then you'll be getting to numbers that are less than 0.5%, like up to 100 million if it gets staked. Then including MEV, that'll be about 0.5% a year, with the actual stake yield being pretty much zero, well, very, very low. So that's kind of what they want it to look like. And this has kind of gotten a lot of pushback from people in staking LST in LST arenas. Like Jasper has been kind of opposed to this, saying that it's too soon for it to happen in Electra, and we need a lot more research to go into like the second and third order effects. Anthony Sassano famously said that he would veto this on Daily Quay, and then he corrected himself to say not that he could veto it, but that he would champion against it, like argue against this happening, especially in Electra. And then there's been a whole bunch of other discussions kind of going around that. So then what's happened is this has started a really lively debate. I'll leave you all to read the whole of the thing, but the reason why I'm covering in the show today is because we've gotten some feedback from people in the Rocket Pool community. The first one of those is Wander. Let me get to his post. So he says, this is a bit tangential, but I'd like to address one of your core assumptions, and that is that LSTs are a winner takes most market due to network effects of money. So he says, this is an unpopular opinion in the age of lighter dominance, but I disagree, especially in the long run. Today's short-term market issues are the result of distortion introduced from immaturity of the existing proof-of-stake technology, which will most likely be resolved with Denkun and Prague Electra. Ultimately, proof-of-stake simply needs more technological maturity to enable more dynamic market competition, which obviates the need for trade-offs like this proposal, which presents serious risks to Ethereum's inclusive ideals. And then he says that complement prior technological arguments from O'Shane. Yeah, and then it gives an economic argument as well. So you can go and read that if you want. And then he talks about how he's a member of NodeSet. And after that as well, we have a post from Waldorf. He says, I think a proposal like this, if implemented, would essentially end solo staking, with the exception of some very large solo stakers. and some altruists willing to lose money for ethos. He says we have already seen a number of ways where solo stakers are underperforming, and then he says like look at timing games. He says they have more missed proposals, they can't play timing games effectively, etc. Making stake profits marginal will ensure that the only validators left are those who are most effective at extracting value. This is an extremely different form from those who are most effective at securing the chain. I would argue there's a negative correlation. I want to highlight 2 comments from above that I really think hit the nail on the head, and one of those is from Dimitri from Lido, and the second is from Cody, about talking about how institutional ideas have a structural advantage. So if you are interested in this discussion, definitely go and give it a read. Here we had a tweet from Jasper as well, kind of talking about this. He says, attention Rocket Pool node operators, important poll for you regarding minimal viable issuance. It says if your node APR dropped around 50% overnight, would you keep running your node? And 20% of people said, I just want to see the results, or I'm not a staker. And then of the people who responded, we have around 50% of people saying they would rather switch to LSTs, and then around 25% of people saying they would exit and just hold ETH, and only about 25% of people saying that less than 2% yield is enough. And like I said, if the stake grows a lot, then it'll be less than 1% yield. So that's definitely something to look for. This then started a whole big discussion. Nixo from ETH Staker got involved in the discussion. Evan Jones got involved in this discussion. Rocknet got involved in this discussion as well. So if you're interested in reading that information, go and check out what Jasper has to say and what other people are thinking about this. But definitely go and give the Ethereum Magicians thread a read. But please remember that this is like for serious discussions. This is for like developers and people who are contributing to the discussion. You're all welcome to read what's going on, but if you want to participate, please make sure that you you contribute in a productive way, because otherwise you'll just be getting in the way of the discussion that's taking place. Okay, next I want to have a look at this new update from, well, not update, but like a new balance change from the rETH. So now if you have 1 rETH, if you go to stake.rocketpool.net, you can use your 1 rETH, you will receive 1.1 ETH. Now you've heard me mention this on the show before, but what's different this time is that in the past, we got this 1.1 ratio based on premiums on the secondary market, but now it's actually like the official value of rETH. So as long as there's no discount ever on the secondary market, you should always be getting more than 1.1 for every rETH you have. So that's 10% of appreciation in 2 and a bit years, which shows that it's just under 5% per year. And of course, that number is getting smaller every year. And currently it's closer to, 3.5%, I think. But that's a really nice milestone for rETH. And that number, of course, will keep going up forever. As long as Rocket Pool, the protocol, keeps operating, then that number will never go down. And that is really awesome because, you'll just, your rETH value will just keep getting higher and higher, which is really cool to see. Okay, let's go back to Discord for this next part. And here we have a new thread from Mountain B, who wants to share a beginner's guide to investing in Rocket Pool. So the purpose of this was to kind of highlight all the cool things happening with Rocket Pool and RPL, and why you should kind of invest with Rocket Pool. So I'm not going to go through the whole thread because it's still a work in progress. But what Mountain B has done here is like written up a few paragraphs, like a few pages basically, of why Rocket Pool, the protocol, is on an upward trajectory, and why RPL token is going to capture growth and value, and what makes it a good investment. So people were joking that this is basically like a new version of RPIT, Rocket Pool Investment Thesis, version 3, and well, it's not to the same level of detail as 0.1 and 2, but what's happening here is, they're just, Mountain B is just kind of explaining the reasons why you should invest in Rocket Pool. And then people have also started giving feedback, and Val was one of the people giving feedback, and I said that, I'll help get the final version like published. Jasper said that he'll have some comments as well. Halululo says, is this RPIT version 4? Dr. Lufa says, glad to see you jumping on this. More community involvement, the better. We'll return with comments. And then I guess Samus started asking questions as well. And we all just kind of had a little bit of a back and forth. And I think Mountain Bee will go away and like write a new draft of this. So I'll definitely keep my eyes on that. And when it's ready to be published, I will share it with everyone, and we'll go into like all the detail of what he's talking about in the post. Okay, next we've got a little bit more information about something that I covered on yesterday's show. So yesterday I talked about the Rocket School, and I was talking about that in the context of it being announced at Denver, and we had a quick look at their website. Well, their promotional material is going out more now. So here JT Nicole says, I think happened at ETH Denver, the Rocket Pool community has launched Rocket School. Rocket School is an end-to-end Zoomer to Boomer guide to help you get started staking ETH and RPL on Ethereum. And he says the website is live. So, this post has 150 likes, 68 retweets, and a whole lot of people like leaving really encouraging comments saying that this is awesome and great work, and we love your attitude and everything like that. So that was actually really nice to see. And I'll be giving that a little bit more coverage in the coming days, so you can all have a look at it. We're going to finish today's episode with some asides. So the first one is yesterday's Rocket Fuel episode was the longest one that has been so far. It was 1 hour, 17 minutes and 43 seconds, which is really long. Anyway, just as I had finished recording it and before I uploaded the episode, I asked people for guesses on how long the episode was going to be, and the person would get a shout out. So of course, 1 hour, 17 minutes is 67 minutes and 43 seconds. No, sorry, 77 minutes and 43 seconds. So here, Shift Nixo said 2.25 hours. Sorry, 2 hours, 2.25 hours. So 2 hours, 15 minutes, I think. Shifrin said 1 hour, 24 minutes, which was pretty close. Snow was trying to get before Nixo and said 2.24 hours. Lee said 1 hour, 58 minutes. EMP 2B3 said 81 minutes was actually really close, and he was actually the closest for a while. Jasper said 69 minutes. However, the winning time was by Samus, and Samus said, where's Samus? Let me see. I should have had it open. I'm sorry. Samus said 80 minutes, I think, or 79 minutes, something like that. So he was actually really close to the amount. So I'm giving him a shout out for being closest today. But yeah, that was the longest episode I've ever recorded of Rocket Fuel. I just kind of talked and never stopped talking. It was a long one, but I really enjoyed recording it. I feel like there was a whole lot of stuff happening in Denver that I just didn't cover or didn't give the detail as much as I should have. Yeah, here Samus's guess with 80 minutes. So he did really well on his guess, and he is the person who won. So congrats to Samus. Okay, next we had an explanation from Sneaky Ninja Guy about why the audio and video issues were happening at the Denver liftoff day 2. So he says, we brought our own camera and mic setup, and the university had its own camera and mic setup. The two systems did not play nicely. We didn't really have much of an opportunity to do a full integration and or end-to-end testing. Our system relied heavily on the use of a travel router, which our cameras kept dropping off of. The beginning of the live stream was done via our setup, but after seeing that it wasn't really viable to stream from due to shaky wireless connection, we flipped over to the university setup with a much wider angle camera for the source of the live stream. And then he says we continued a local recording of the remainder of the speaker sessions via our system, but not live streaming from it. And that content is now saved onto 3 cameras positioned at different angles in the room on SSD cards. So it says Ken mentioned possibly stitching all the local content together, but until then all we have is the YouTube playback of the stream. So that was a little bit of an explanation of why there were technical issues at the beginning of the episode, but hopefully they're all fixed. They all got fixed for the later part, but I mean for the recordings, hopefully we'll have the content out soon, and then we can start sharing that with the wider people who might want to watch it who didn't get to watch it live. And finally, we got some really good news. And here, Buddha tagged Invis in a message saying, check your role color. So Invis makes a post that says color check, and he is now a dark green instead of a light green. And the reason for that is because he is shown as being an employee of Beacon Chain, and he started working there this week. So this is a huge congrats to Invis for getting a job working for the Beacon Chain website. And Bitfly, I think, is a company that that is the parent company, and of course Buddha is a founder of that company or works with that company. So they're now working together. And there was a part of me that was really hoping Invis would be the junior developer that we hired, but maybe Invis can be a senior developer we hire next year or in a couple of years' time. But this is a hugely great thing for Invis. I'm really, really proud of him. So congratulations. Anyway, on that note, I am going to end this episode. So thank you all for watching, listening, and being part of the Rocket Fuel community. I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.